what's in it for us. You know, because there's always been this idea of exploitation and the like. So everyone is worried. I hope this is not going to be one of those
situations where you're being exploited. Exactly. I will have no idea until it's done.
Yes, yes.
We hope so. We hope not, actually. We hope not. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media platforms. We're always live on YouTube and every other social media platform, and on SLTV channel 265. I am Quinsley Rowland.
And I am Uchenna Chimdi Oluoha. Coming up next is newspaper headlines and review.
Good morning and welcome back. We're just about to start our newspaper headlines right before the review. Looking at the Daily Trust newspaper, below the mass we have 30 die, many injured in Kano road accident.
And beside that, US-Nigerian travels dip amidst visa ban, entry restrictions.
Electoral bill, NLC threatens mass action.
Uromi killings, Edo yet to pay compensation 11 months after.
IPOB ends sit at home in Southeast.
Interesting. Attacks on police facilities kill 45 officers in 1 year.
And we have reptiles take over FCT Health Center.
Wow. All right, on the Punch newspaper, let's see what we have on page 2. Electoral Act standoff. Senate calls emergency plenary as protests loom with riders Occupy NAS protests slated for Monday. NLC, Falana, Ezekwesili, Utomi, 1FG, and Senate halts recess to review electoral bill.
And just before the mass, we have Makinde and Wike camp set for showdown at PDP headquarters today.
All right, let's look at the next paper, which is The Nation. We see that the major headline on The Nation is Senate reconvened on Electoral Act.
And just above the mass, we have Bank of Industry secures CBN approval to operate non-interest banking window.
Now let's look at the Vanguard newspaper. Now, boldly written on page 5, it says 2027 polls. How 3 Southern senators blocked real-time results transmission from sources with rider. Senate bows to pressure to hold emergency sitting tomorrow instead of February 24th. NBA worries over delay in Electoral Act amendments. Says judicial interpretation key to credible polls. No mandatory e-transmission of results. No election. This is from NLC.
Above the mass on page 21, we have manufacturers record 1.8 trillion naira unsold goods as demand slumps. With the rider inventory surge contradicts official claims of economic recovery. Raw materials up 15.4% to 1.5 trillion naira. Nigeria's industrialization efforts weakened, and this is coming from CPPE CEO. Rising cost, weak and demand squeeze firms, and from CIS president.
FG's oil production data casts doubt over 2 MBPD 2026 targets.
Police arrest suspect over death of gospel singer, 3 others in a jam musical video studio.
Now on page 27, Kanu orders cancellation of Monday sit at home.
Interesting. I think that's all we have from the Vanguard newspaper. Over to the Guardian. On the headline, we have TBOC over 400% despite demand spike as manufacturers face credit squeeze.
BOI secures CBN's approval for non-interest banking, and beside that, Pope mourns victims of attacks in Nigeria, urges government to protect citizens.
Atiku, no economic sense in reviving failed refineries after $1.5 billion.
Outcry grows over e-transmission ahead of Senate emergency session.
IPOP, Kanu cancel Monday sit-at-home order.
And below, SAN rank under scrutiny as AGF CJN warn against abuse of influence on page 3.
Looking at the Nigerian Tribune above the mass, we have insecurity. Tinubu receives commander of U.S. Africa Command.
Atiku demands privatization of refineries, says politics must never substitute for sound transformative policy.
Boldly written Electoral Act, Senate to hold emergency sitting and NLC threatens mass action. With the riders, Akpabio Conference Committee members, others come under pressure. We won't take anything less than real-time transmission, coming from Abaribe. Human rights lawyer and SDP and others condemn Senate.
Khan urges Tinubu to establish military base in Agwara local government, Niger.
Police seize large consignment of illicit drugs in Ibadan.
NDLEA arrests China-bound auto parts dealer for ingesting 95 cocaine wraps.
From health, we have sleeping without pillow may help lower high internal eye pressure.
All right. Police confirm death of blogger, 3 others inside Lagos music studio.
All right, I think that's all we have from the papers this morning. Going over to have our papers reviewed with Oracle. We have, of course, Chris is in the studio with us this morning. I was going to say building like a DJ. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Uche. Good morning, Quinsley.
Good morning.
And good morning, people of the world. We are here again after the weekend, and we give glory to God for His mercy that abounds for us and is renewed every morning. So we give Him the glory.
All right, then, so looking at the papers, we have seen that the IPOB ends sit-at-home in South, even though it had died down already. What do you think about this public pronouncements from Nnamdi Kanu?
Nnamdi Kanu, from all the people who had been on our programs on Signature Television, who had gone to see him in Sokoto, he started with the bishop, or the Anglican bishop of Oji River, Most Reverend Dr. Ike Bonu. He had a lot of double sessions with us. Then we had Professor Abodike, who also went with another group to see him. They were saying one thing, that Mazin Nnamdi Kanu said he is no longer in support of sit-at-home in Southeast Nigeria. And this has been said over time, and we also at Signature TV had said that the people who still follow sit-at-home were obeying their own orders. And of course, you know that when that order came up, a lot of things started going into it, whether good or bad. The IPOB people who sit at home, it was peaceful initially. Along the line, it started having some infiltrations of violence and all. And some other groups took opportunity of sit at home in Southeast and start perpetuating violence and criminal acts. And a lot of lives have been lost. So it sounds like music, once again, that Nnamdi Kanu said, no more sit at home. Let's watch what will happen. The people, if they go ahead to sit at home, it means they are on their own. They can as well sit at home individually. Let not say anybody, like Mazen Nnamdi Kanu or IPOB is saying anybody should sit at home. Some state governors have tried to use force to do it, and people were also still losing their life. And we are asking the Southeast people of Nigeria, if you carry fight into your sitting room, so your property and your good things in your sitting room will be destroyed. So why this self-inflicted harm? And what have we achieved? Because there are certain things that are not necessary. We can't keep talking and agitating for whatever we want to talk about, but cutting our body nose to spite our face might not be the right action. So we thank IPOB and the leader of IPOB, even from his incarcerated place in Sokoto, he still had the opportunity of saying, stop, sit at home. It's not to anybody's fault.
Right. Now, another thing on the headlines, quite interestingly, this issue of the Electoral Act is still all over the papers. And this time we see that NLC threatens mass action over it, and the Senate is to hold an emergency sitting still over this issue.
The person who fetches ant-infested firewood can only invite lizard for a state visit. And that's what Senate has done. Nobody has been picketing or talking bad about Federal House of Reps, and they are honorable. And we have, from the House of the distinguished senators, we have dissented opinions. And can you imagine, from all the newspapers, Daily Trust, Electoral Bill, NLC threatened mass action. Punch said, the nation's Senate reconvenes, and, of course, you go back to Vanguard, he said how 3 Southern senators blocked real-time result transmission. This is shameful. We have 109 senators at the Federal House of the National Assembly, distinguished Senate of Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's reporting on the papers, and the world we see that 3 out of 109. So you ask yourself, is this democracy or democracy? It shouldn't be mentioned if it's by vote. They are so much minor. They don't count. 3 people doesn't count. 109 people are voting. But you remember, once we told the Senate, we are giving them their opinion. They cannot swell, dance naked in the streets. Why are we waiting for mass action for us to add a clause in the Electoral Act and say, transmit your result, Nigerians, the way you want it? Who are the electorates? Who are the laws meant for? Who is making the law? And who has the power to implement or follow the law? Is it a dictatorial or democracy? One majority of people are saying, add the clause. Let us, after voting in any polling booth in Nigeria, let the result be transmitted online. Whatever you do later, from whatever greed and corrupt mind you want to operate from, do it after, but do this for us. Put it in the act so that it become constitutional. It can be backed up by legal action. So anybody who is not doing it faces the law. And of course, we know people who have boldly told us they do their own, meet us in the court of law. But at least do this one. Let us meet you in the court of law when you act again. So why is it dragging? Until Nigeria collapses. A lot of people have been warning Senate. And remember that tagline of our Nigerian Television Authority of the olden days. He said 90 million flies cannot be wrong. So, and that is one way they got their tagline. He said 90 million Nigerians cannot be wrong. So watch it here. If 90 million Nigerians are saying put the clause in our Electoral Act, why is in 100 and a few people in the National Assembly, and they are not ashamed to say 3 senators? I've told them, anybody who wants to rape his sister should go ahead. Not say because the girl walked in front, my front with whatever she's carrying. That's a useless excuse. If they do not want the clause, it's obvious they don't want it. It's not compulsory they want it. But the majority said, we want it. So let's go ahead and do the right thing and not close down Nigeria again. There are too much threats of strike or closing down or mass action for one small Nigeria. No nation survives every day. People go into the street. We lose man hour. We lose human beings. We destroy the little we have in our property, public properties. And a lot of things are stopped. The economic life is halted and all. Where should the senators, who should be the guide of how we move, become the cause of the action? It's an error. And they should look back to it. We ask them, in the name of all things pure and holy, the Senate of Federal Republic of Nigeria, go back on someone emergency, look at it again, and do the right thing.
Okay, looking at the papers, article demands privatization of refineries.
This is not only Atiku, because when you say issue of Nigeria, you mention people like Atiku. you mention Peter Obi, you mention Amechi, you mention Mark. These names will always be driven and drowned by as voice of opposition, people who are not in government. Even the government itself, NNPCL and all, came out recently and said, Port Harcourt refinery, investing in it is a waste of resources. Over time, in the last 20 years, people have been calling for privatization of refinery. Why are they concessioning airports? Why did we privatize give public-private practice in telecom? Why did we do that with electricity? So what is holding the refineries? An individual in Nigeria has done it, meaning that government, no, they cannot run this. The corruption in oil and gas in Nigeria can never allow the government get it right. If they privatize it and people put their money down, you know, people follow their money, like the Bible says, where you put your wealth is where your mind is. Hand it over. Government will have share. Let them have private people who have interest and make sure our refineries work. If they doesn't have the refinery,